Hi, Mike here. Today I'm going to be discussing some of the future matchups for Diego Lopes after his stellar win over Silva over the weekend, where he got a second round KO with the spinning elbow. I wanted to go through some of the matchups in the division and rank them on how likely they are to beat Diego. I've included some big names on the list like Steve Garcia, Patricio Pitbull, Youssef Zalal, Josh Emmett, Arnold Allen, Aljamain Sterling, Lerone Murphy, Yair Rodriguez, Movsar Evloev, and Alexander Volkanovski. They're the guys that's on the list. Starting off with the easiest opponent for Diego Lopes, I think that's going to be Patricio Pitbull. Prime Pitbull in this matchup might do alright against Lopes just because he had a little bit better grappling, his timing on the boxing was a little bit better. But this version of Pitbull gets finished within a round. Nowadays, since he's got older, he fancies himself a bit of a counterpuncher. But against a younger guy with a granite chin, it's not going to work. Pitbull is a great grappler, but he's nowhere near the level of Lopes either. And he's going to be one step behind on all of the grappling exchanges. And it'll sort of be like when he's left on the feet with Diego Lopes, which doesn't bode well for him. He's super low output. Although he throws crisp counter hooks in the pocket, I think Diego is going to be able to crash into range, take a hook or two, and then sleep Pitbull brutally with an uppercut in the clinch. Moving on to the next one, the next easiest opponent for Diego Lopes, I think it's Yair Rodriguez. I was even considering putting Yair below Pitbull, but I just think he's going to be a little bit more durable than Pitbull. His eyes might be a bit better, might have a little bit better reactions, but the thing is, he's so much worse of a grappler than Patricio Pitbull is. Whilst I see him having some success early on the feet, his boxing isn't enough to write home about. He doesn't have enough power to keep Diego Lopes off him, and Lopes with that granite chin is going to walk through those punches and kicks and deliver much harder ones back. And I just don't think that Yair is going to be able to stay away from Lopes. If Ortega is getting you down and finishing you with no striking threat, then powerful Chad, granite chin Diego Lopes will be able to set up an easy takedown or flatline KO you. But I think he would be able to get Yair down, either ground and pounding his way to a victory early into the fight or getting a submission. The thing is that although Lopez's takedowns aren't amazing when you're set in your stance, like you can defend a Diego Lopes takedown if he just shoots it out in the open. The thing is that if you give him a takedown, he's smart enough to take it. Similarly to the way that Silva threw a spinning back kick early into the Diego Lopes fight, giving Lopes his back, he instantly got the takedown. If you're going to present Lopes an opportunity to get you down, he will get you down. And Yair's kick-heavy striking and all of the crazy cartwheel kicks and all of that sort of stuff leaves him basically never set into his stance. So I think that's going to lead an easy takedown for Diego Lopes. And although Lopes will have to deal with some danger on the feet early, I think midway through the round, he's just going to be able to get down Yair Rodriguez, either ground and pounding him to a TKO finish or getting the submission. I think he would get a submission, probably rear naked choke from the back position. Moving on to the next easiest opponent, the third easiest guy for Diego Lopes, I think it's going to be Aljamain Sterling. Might be crazy to say, but I do think he still gets finished in the first round. I can see Aljo online calling for this fight, but honestly, if I was his manager, I'm telling him don't do it because I can't see a path to victory for him. I think he's signing a death wish if he wants to fight Diego Lopes, because I think that if you want to beat Diego, you got to have some really good footwork for one, and you got to have some damaging striking as well. And if you're going to be taking Diego Lopes down, you better have both the footwork and the striking to set it up. I don't think Aljo has that. He might have the footwork. I just don't think he has the striking. Although Aljo got a good decision win over Ortega, he never really put Ortega in danger, even when he spinning elbowed him flush on the jaw. Ortega didn't even look rocked by that point, and that even injured Aljamain Sterling's elbow. So I don't really think that he's got the minerals on the feet to put Diego Lopes in any trouble. And if you compare the fight between Aljo and Aljamain Sterling and Brian Ortega, compare that to the Ortega versus Lopes fight, Aljo really doesn't have Ortega in any sort of problem, whereas Lopes the entire time has him on the brink of getting finished the entire fight. So I just don't see Aljo having a good time at all. I can see him trying his takedowns early, but Diego's got some new and improved takedown defense. We saw in his first fight against Movsar Evloev that takedown defense needed some work. But then by the time he got to the title fight with Alex Volkanovski, who isn't like a NCAA All-American this wrestler, but he's a fantastic MMA wrestler, and he really wasn't able to control or get down Diego at any point of the fight after the first round. I can see Diego sprawling Aljo's early takedowns. I can see when they return to the feet, Aljo having a dejected look at his face. And I think that Diego would just choose to lay loose on him, getting like a pity TKO against the fence in the end of the first round. Let me know if I'm wrong though, because I feel like I'm missing something in this matchup. I just don't see a single way that Aljo can stay alive in the matchup. Moving on to the next fighter. This one might actually surprise you, but I've got Josh Emmett next. I think that Josh gets finished early into round 2, but it is low-key crazy that I think Josh Emmett does better against Diego Lopes than both Yair Rodriguez or Aljamain Sterling would do it. But stylistically, it makes sense why he would do better than both of those fighters, just because early in the fight is when Josh Emmett's the most dangerous. And I think even though Lopes has got that granite chin, he will know that if Emmett lands on you, he'll likely still lay you out, no matter the chin. Even Ilia Topuria was having those same thoughts. But the difference now between the Emmett that fought Topuria and the Emmett that's fighting now is that Topuria made damage show up really easily on Josh Emmett's face. And look, I know before that fight, Josh Emmett did show damage. He is a very light-skinned guy. He does show a lot of damage anyway. But since that Topuria fight, it's like one mark on Emmett's face and his face is going to blow up. He took so much damage in that fight. And I think early in the fight, Diego is going to try and wrestle with Josh Emmett, maybe try and get him down. I think that the game plan that Diego Lopes would have would be very similarly to how he fought Gene Silva. He would wait for Josh Emmett to explode, looking for some sort of takedown, getting some ground and pound off. And in between those moments, he's going to be getting those investment shots off on Josh Emmett, throwing those leg kicks. He's probably going to throw a couple of kicks to the body, maybe some body shots as well, trying to sap all the power of Josh Emmett. But the thing is about Josh Emmett is that he's very different to a lot of power punchers because he's got very good footwork. It's actually deceptively good. I don't think many people realize this about Josh Emmett, but he moves around on the outside very well, and he's really actually quite difficult to track down, especially if you compare it to most other power punchers who can really set their stance and just lay you out flat, like Josh Emmett can. But I think that using those leg kicks early for Diego Lopes is going to work very well because it's going to slow down that footwork of Josh Emmett. And after some ground and pound in the first round from Diego Lopes, I think Emmett's face is going to look like a car crash. And then in the early parts of round 2, you're going to have a slower damaged lion in front of Diego Lopes. And Lopes is going to come out early, try and catch him with a 1-2 down the pipe as Emmett loads up. And I think he would probably drop him and finish him in the fight. Moving on to the next guy, the next most difficult fighter for Diego Lopes, a bit of a random one as well. I think it's Steve Garcia. New Age Tony Ferguson is quite high on the list, but I think that Steve still gets finished in the third round. The only reason why I think he does a lot better than the guys below him, though, is one, he isn't a kicker, so he's not really going to get taken down easily like Yair. 2, he has got very good footwork, maybe not on the level of Josh Emmett's outside footwork, but in the pocket, he's actually moving very well. He likes to evade punches by the hair of his teeth, but the skin of his teeth, the hair of his teeth, I don't even know what sort of breakdown and analogy I was trying to use there. But 3, I think he has a really good boxing heavy style with very good head movement as well. He's not going to get completely outmatched by Diego Lopes. I don't think Lopes is going to catch him at the end of a shot like he would Aljo or Pitbull. And he's got so many weapons coming back at him, really, that he has to worry about, because Steve Garcia is a very prolific finisher. He's very active on the feet. He knows how to win rounds. He's also got a 4-inch edge in reach against Diego Lopes, and two guys that like to throw straight punches. That does mean a lot, especially with a guy like Steve Garcia who can really slip and rip shots really nicely, especially straight shots. And even though Steve Garcia showed some good cardio, I do think the damage and experience is going to catch up with him in this fight. Lopes has been in a couple of 5-rounders now, and I think he's going to be able to pace himself out a little bit better than Steve. And he's had times where he throws the kitchen sink at guys and they keep coming, meaning like the Dan Ige fight. Whereas Steve Garcia really hasn't had that. The closest he's had was Calvin Kattar, and even then, Calvin really just had no offense coming back at Steve Garcia, so he didn't really get tired in that fight. I think in this fight, though, with Steve Garcia and Diego Lopes, I think the first 2 rounds, Steve Garcia wins them. But then after the third round, I think the visual damage is going to come through. Diego's probably going to get a second wind against Steve Garcia. And I think he clips him at the end of one of these punches as Steve is trying to use that head movement. And I think he's going to club himself Steve Garcia in the third round. Moving on to the next guy, we've got Youssef Zalal. I honestly think the footwork of Youssef is going to be the savior of himself in this matchup, and also his enemy. I think the first 3 rounds of this will be Zalal rounds. I think he's going to win 30-27 the first 3. He's going to be running away, he's going to be leg kicking and jabbing, and I could honestly see Lopes swinging big and missing a lot during the early parts of the rounds, and getting very frustrated in the fight. Honestly, I think the first few rounds, I think Lopes actually gets brutally schooled, landing barely a mitt on Youssef Zalal, probably missing some takedowns as well, shooting at the floor. Zalal making him look a little bit silly, maybe emoting on him at times. But as the fight gets along, you'll notice the straight shots of Lopes falling just short of Youssef Zalal, and you'll see Zalal breathing a lot heavier. You're going to see a panic look in the eyes of Youssef Zalal. And I think that even though Zalal is going to be 3-0 coming into the 4th round, he's going to become a marathon runner and absolutely stay on his bike and try and do that for the last 2 rounds. And we've seen that in the Zalal versus Keita fight, that the longer the fight went on, the closer Keita got to his shots, and the worse that Zalal did in the fight. And you could see that the momentum was shifting as the fight went long. I think that's exactly how this one goes down. I think the first 3 rounds, maybe Zalal has some new and improved cardio, lasts those first 3 rounds, not without some danger though. And then in the 4th round, I think neither is going to be landing really clean. But as the fight goes along, there's going to be a clear momentum shift. And late in the round, you'll start to see the bad tendencies that Zalal has on the feet start to get punished. When I say that, Zalal has a lot of bad tendencies where he leans backwards whilst throwing or trying to evade a shot, throwing a left hook. And he also fades back with his hands down when he thinks he's out of range. But as he gets more tired, we saw this in the Calvin Kattar fight, that he did start to get caught when he's doing that. And Calvin Kattar's probably like an out-of-prime version of Diego Lopes without the grappling. And although that's a weird way to describe Calvin Kattar really is a straight punch type guy. He moves forward with straight punches. He doesn't really feint. Diego Lopes is a little bit similar to that. I think he's got more power than Calvin Kattar, but I still think he's got that similar moving forward with straight punch type style. But I think late into round 4, he's going to start punishing Youssef Zalal for those tendencies where he starts to move back and fade backwards with his hands down. And I think that one of them, Lopes, is going to be able to catch him at the end of the punch, swarming Youssef Zalal, finishing him up against the cage. And I think that it would be a really tough fight for Lopes, but it would get ended by that end of that 4th round, start of that 5th round. Moving on to where it starts getting really tough for Diego Lopes, though, we've got Movsar Evloev. I think Diego wins this rematch easily, especially in 5 rounds, but I still think it goes to the decision. I think the Movsar that we've had since the Diego Lopes, that we've had since the Pat Sabatini fight has been able to beat Movsar Evloev, just because we've seen exponential improvements from Diego Lopes since that fight, whereas Movsar's only fought twice since then. And when they did fight, Lopes was on short notice and it was in his UFC debut. I still don't think he finishes Movsar in a fight if they were to rematch, but I think he gets a dominant 49-46 or a 50-45 decision win for a number of reasons as well. The first fight in this one will look completely different, and the thing is that about the first fight is that Diego was so inexperienced, where he was still in the stage of his career where he worked a lot from bottom position, and he really did accept bottom position. And when he was on the feet with guys, he wasn't nearly as dangerous, and he wasn't nearly as gritty on the feet. Now he's the full package. He's an elite striker, great grappler. He's got really good fight IQ too. And to be honest, so is Evloev. He's got the underrated striking, especially in the boxing. He's got the good grappling as well, the good fight IQ as well. But this is over 5 rounds. He's never fought a 5-round fight. Lopes over 5 rounds has got that fight IQ, he's got the experience for it, and he's got the pacing for it. I think the pacing in a 5-round fight for Evloev is going to be a real issue for him. Usually, Evloev could avoid being on the feet for as long as he can by pushing really heavily for the takedown, using a lot of energy, pushing for those takedowns. Whereas in a 5-rounder, that's not going to work against Diego Lopes. He won't have the gas tank to constantly shoot against Diego, especially since Diego's shown much better takedown defense, proven in that Alex Volkanovski fight. And even then, he's shown on the feet that he's much more of a finisher at the higher level, because in his last 7 fights, he finished 4 of those opponents, whereas Evloev's had 9 decisions in a row. So Lopes is going to have that confidence every time they get back to the feet that he's going to be able to finish Evloev if they can just stay there for that little bit longer of amount of time. Whereas Evloev's not really going to have that same confidence that he's going to be able to finish a guy like Lopes, who is a bit unfinishable himself. And I think on the feet, Evloev's going to have to be super conservative and almost save himself for a takedown. I think if he's fighting Lopes like that, Lopes is going to be able to draw out the takedown attempts from Movsar Evloev and outbox him on the feet, hurting him at times as well. And I don't think he's going to be able to outbox him to the level where he's able to get a finish. I do think Evloev escapes the finish with some takedown attempts when he gets there, or with some clinch attempts, all that sort of stuff, and some stalling. But I do think that Lopes poses a lot of significant threats to a guy like Movsar Evloev. Moving on to the next guy we've got for Diego Lopes, it's Lerone Murphy. I think this is a really tough fight for Diego Lopes, just because of the skill set that Lerone has. But I think that he gets it done by a damage-based decision. Lerone does have a very good shot of winning, as I think he can execute that same game plan that Volk was able to in their fight at UFC 314. The game plan was sort of don't enter the pocket, only enter the pocket on your terms though. And if you're on the outside, jab and move a lot and kick the legs a lot. And I don't even argue that Lerone Murphy probably has a lot more tools and a few more limbs and longer limbs and more tools to actually beat and finish Diego Lopes in this fight. But where it goes pear-shaped for Lerone Murphy is that I think he gets hurt really, really badly by a Diego Lopes. And similarly to Volk, Lerone is an older guy, so he's going to have to play that patient outside game perfect for 25 minutes to beat Diego. And unlike Volk, I don't think he's got that same level of knowledge when he is hurt to be able to work and escape those sorts of positions. Volk used to get hurt every single fight and you would have to work out of it. Whereas Lerone isn't experienced getting out of those positions, although he's shown he can, like in fights against Dan Ige, where he almost gets slept in the first round. He hasn't really shown it the amount of times that Volkanovski was able to. And Volk in the Diego Lopes fight, low-key was kind of perfect for 23 minutes of that fight. The only moments that Lopes really had was dropping Volk at the very, very end of the second round and then hitting him in the eye, where he still got outstruck in that round. And in that moments where Volk was hurt, he was still getting outstruck by Volk. I don't think Lerone can replicate that same game plan. And if Diego does touch Lerone, I think he's going to hurt Lerone really, really badly. So I think it's almost better for Lerone in a Volk matchup than it would be in a Diego Lopes matchup, just because Volk is going to be better in a Diego Lopes fight because he's a lot shorter than Lopes. He's going to be able to duck under the shots in the pocket. He's going to have a better time in the pocket just because Lopes is going to be punching down at Alex Volkanovski's head, and Volk has very good head movement in the pocket. And Volk also is very fast for his age, even at the older age he's at, whereas Lerone is fast, but he's not the same level of speed as Volkanovski is, and he's going to be punching at the same level as Diego Lopes. And I think even if they do end up in the pocket, Lerone's more technically sound, but Lopes is going to get the better of those exchanges. Lerone's not got that one-shot KO power. I don't think that if he didn't land that spinning elbow on Pico, I don't think he finishes Pico. But I think that Lerone is more technically sound, but I just don't think that's going to be enough to beat Lopes. I think Lopes is going to be too gritty in the pocket. He's going to have too much chin. I don't think that Lerone's going to be able to hurt him at too many points of the fight. And I think I can see Lerone Murphy doing well at points, but just getting hurt in 2 or 3 of the rounds. And I think that Diego Lopes would be able to skin past with a decision win. Moving on to probably the most controversial thing I have on this video. It's going to be the starting of the guys that actually beat Diego Lopes. And the first one I think is Arnold Allen. Now, this is genuinely probably one of the most controversial things I've said on the channel. And when I was making this video, I didn't instantly think that Arnold Allen would be the guy to beat Diego. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought that Arnold Allen is just built for this. He's built for Diego Lopes. And to be honest, Arnold's kind of built for most of the UFC featherweights. So if I went down the list of UFC featherweights, I'd probably pick him to beat 14 out of 15 or 13 out of 15. He had a razor-close fight with Movsar Evloev that I thought he won. The only 2 losses he's had in the UFC, by the way. a razor-close fight against Movsar Evloev that I thought he won the first and third rounds of. And he took Max to a 3-2 decision, winning one of those later rounds. A prime Max Holloway too, and it was a very, very close fight where Max only really edged it out in one of those rounds. But I honestly think Arnold has all the tools to beat a guy like Diego Lopes. He's got the fantastic footwork. He's got good enough footwork to keep Lopes at bay on the outside. He's got great kicks at range. He's active enough on the feet to win rounds as well. He's got a granite chin. He's never been finished across the entire of his career. He's got really good ground game as well, especially the takedown defense as well. Very fast hands, probably faster than Diego Lopes. And one thing I haven't spoken about yet with Diego Lopes is the lack of hand speed for him. He's got great power, he's got good boxing, but he is actually very, very slow. We saw that on the weekend with the fight against Gene Silva, and although Gene Silva is lightningly fast, it also is just that Diego Lopes isn't the fastest guy. I think in a fight against Arnold Allen, that Arnold's going to be able to keep Diego Lopes at bay with the kicks and the straight shots. And even if Lopes comes and crashes into range, I think Allen's got the chin to take the punches. And even if Lopes shoots, I could see Allen defending it. Every single thing that Diego Lopes does well, I can see Allen having an answer for. And I just think that this is a nightmare matchup for Diego Lopes because he's not going to be able to drag Arnold Allen into a great fest in the pocket like he did Gene Silva. Arnold's too smart for that. And even if he does, I think Arnold's got the chin to take it. I don't think Arnold's got the boxing to win those exchanges. But in between all of that, I think Arnold's got the kicks at range to work at that. And the other thing about Arnold Allen is that he genuinely never overextends any of his shots. And he's very tricky to track down in the octagon. And I honestly think Arnold Allen maybe loses the first 2 rounds, maybe gets hurt in one of those rounds. But I think he wins those last 3 rounds, getting a 48-47 decision. He's got really, really good cardio. He's really active on the feet, and he's got really good range management. You don't really see Arnold Allen getting hit with shots that he doesn't see coming. And even if he does, he takes them on the chin like a champ. If you remember the Giga Chikadze fight, he took I can't remember what kick it was, but it was straight to the jaw. No reaction from almighty Arnold Allen. I think he's probably the most underrated guy in the UFC, or at least in the featherweight division, and I think he beats Diego Lopes. I honestly think Arnold Allen has a shot at beating Volkanovski. If it wasn't for all the hand injuries, Allen could have been a champion by now. But let's move on to the last guy, the one that you're probably expecting. It is Alexander Volkanovski. And honestly, although I thought Diego had a fantastic fight against Volk, and even a greater fight against Gene Silva, I could see Volk doing better in a rematch, and that's not because I think Volk's getting better as a fighter. As I do think Volk is waning and getting older, I just think he's going to be able to figure out Diego Lopes a little bit. I thought after watching Volk versus Lopes and then Lopes versus Silva, I'm not sure that Lopes has fixed the issues that were present in the Volk fight. I've seen people online claim that the issues in the Volk fight was the grappling, that Volk was too much of a grappler for Diego. But no, he defended almost all the takedowns. He only got taken down in the first round. That wasn't the issue in the fight. And even then, in the grappling, I thought Diego looked pretty good. He didn't get held down when he was taken down. He avoided the takedowns. I thought it was just in the striking that Diego was showing levels on the feet against Volkanovski. I thought Volk did too well with the feints, dragging the punches of Diego out and then countering once he actually did get those punches out. And then the footwork and the stance switching, he was way too hard to track down. I just thought he was too elusive for Diego Lopes. And the thing is that even though Diego's feints and footwork lost him the fight, I didn't see that rectified in the Gene Silva fight. I saw Gene Silva get overzealous and get himself finished. I don't know if Volkanovski's doing that. I also saw in that Gene Silva fight, Diego still struggles with cornering fighters and cutting off the cage and ensuring that they get punished for the... How do I put this? Getting punished for the lack of footwork that they have. And I also saw a Diego that wasn't feinting his way and he wasn't drawing out punches of Gene Silva. He would just try to beat Gene when he entered into the pocket or just fire shots without really setting it up. And I don't think that works on Alexander Volkanovski. I think that guy is too elite, too much of a veteran. And he's got all of the tools and skills to defeat a guy like Diego Lopes. Although if they fought again, Lopes may just have the speed and the timing and the reaction time to finish Volkanovski. And he did hurt Volkanovski at different points in the fight. I just think that Volk is going to see that there wasn't really any feints or anything to change up the striking of Diego Lopes. And I think he's going to be able to make improvements even on the striking that Volk even had in the division. Volk's got probably one of the highest fight IQs out of anyone in the entire UFC. I think he's going to know what to do differently against Lopes. And even then, people talk about Lopes hurting Volk multiple times in that fight. It's not like Volkanovski wasn't coming off 2 KO losses, so it makes sense why he was getting hurt in that fight, and it makes sense why he was more hesitant on the feet, thinking that he might get finished at any punch that Diego Lopes throws. But I think that Diego, although his style of striking is going to work against a lot of the guys in the division, these top strikers, the Arnold Allens of the division, the Alexander Volkanovskis, even the Lerone Murphys, they'll pose a lot of problems with them. And I think that they have a lot more layers of their game for Diego Lopes to unravel to even beat them. And although I think he still beats the guys like Movsar and Lerone's, even though Movsar and Lerone are at the elite level in terms of skill, I think both of those guys don't have the necessary levels of grittiness to get past a Diego Lopes. And some people just have too much grittiness and too much skill for guys like Diego. And I think that guy is Volk, and I think that guy is Arnold Allen. Let me know what you think of in the comment section below. Do you think that Arnold Allen is the guy to beat Diego Lopes like I do? But as always, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.